Hey YouTube, you know what? Today we're tackling one of the biggest struggles that's there out and about in the real world. It is dealing with and loving being part of a multi-dog household. Now, we have 3 of our dogs all happily chomping down on their bones, enjoying the being outside, enjoying each other's company, enjoying our company. And I have to say, it feels very different for me today than it did 10 years ago having a multi-dog household.
Now, the first thing that we want to tell you about is, have you heard of the Sexier Than a Squirrel podcast? It's our podcast. We talk about a different subject every week, and there is a really cool episode of that podcast on multi-dog struggles. We'll link to it in the description below this video. You're going to want to listen to it.
Your second tip, or your second thing that we want you to do and we want you to consider, is ditch the bowl. You know what? In a multi-dog household, there's lots of things you need to reward. There's lots of things you get to reward. There's lots of things that you might have an opportunity to reward. So ditch the bowl, because that's going to give you a lot of reinforcement buying power. Now, I've ditched the bowl here. I've got some of my dog's daily food. It can be big, it can be small, it depends on what you're doing. And for me, ditch the bowl is the coolest way to work. Loads and loads and loads of different resources on it. I'm pretty sure we got a podcast on it. I'm pretty sure we do.
Have a look.
And so whether you're part of the Sexier Than a Squirrel program, and I know day one is ditch the bowl, or whether you are literally one of our avid fans and you're listening on the podcast, or whether you're here listening, ditch the bowl is a way forward.
Now, what we've then got to think about is, where do we want to put this pot of value that our dogs start each day with? Well, first and foremost, it needs to go into calmness. Calm relationships are long-lived relationships. The more kind of exciting and high arousal the relationship is between your dogs, the more fragile it is. And therefore, inspire calmness first and foremost, and actually get the dogs used to being in each other's presence and it not being an event.
Now, my next tip for you, and I think it's a really cool one, is it's not always your turn, right? It's not always your turn. That it can be someone's turn and effectively not everyone's turn. So we're going to do some turn taking. So Tokyo, nice, it's Tokyo's turn. So Tokyo gets his turn. His turn might be for playing some games. It might be some magic hand. Toto, I know you're here. Superboy. It could be anything at all that you fancy doing with your dog. Get it? And I might pop that one out there for him, and he can carry on back with his bone again, even though I've got a feeling you're going to think that I'm a better deal right now. This is nice. Stay with a bone. For me, just because I've called him over doesn't mean it's everyone's business. I kept it low. I didn't make it exciting. I wasn't playing thunder, tornado, typhoon. And if that's random language for you, you need to get on the Sexier Than a Squirrel program, because you'll know what I mean. For me, these are things that we play that are super fast, super fun. That's not what I'm going to do right now while I'm building what we call turn taking. Turn taking is fantastic in a multi-dog household and something you certainly want to incorporate.
Now, next tip. This is going to sound weird, but actually the secret to dogs living harmoniously with one another is making sure that they have plenty of breaks from one another as well. I'm sure you've got people in your life where you can spend some time with them and you all get on fine. But if you were to, I don't know, be trapped in a lift with them for a week, only one person might come out. So what we're saying here is that you need to consider that in your own dogs as well. They each have their own personalities, likes and dislikes, and plenty of rest time away from each other really helps.
So my next one is fair does not mean equal. So for example, he might get 2 or 3 or 4 of our big treats, and she may not, and she certainly would not. She wouldn't, because she's a much smaller dog. She wouldn't, because she's already had part of her daily value in different ways. What we're saying is fair does not mean equal. So that doesn't mean that every dog gets exactly the same thing every time. And I think this is really important learning for you, because so many people, I remember I had a customer who was like, no, he must have a big large one because that one's got a big large one. And he had literally two dogs. One was like a Labrador size and the other was a crossbred, but probably a Dachshund size. And they both had the same size marrowbone. I was like, no, fair does not mean equal. Fair does not mean equal. Equally, Tokyo, for example, right now, he doesn't get complete off-leash time in my garden. And my garden is fairly big because we live on a farm. He is supervised. Those two are not. He's supervised because he looks for other things to do. So for me, fair doesn't mean equal in whatever way you look at it. I think that's really, really important to consider.
Follow these tips. These are the foundation. Make sure to listen to that episode of the Sexier Than a Squirrel podcast. If you haven't subscribed to that one, make sure to do so. If you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, make sure to do so. We will see you next time.
Remember, game changers, whatever the dog owning struggle, there's a game for that.
If you haven't already, remember to subscribe to our channel.
And check out our new 25-day online dog training challenge. Watch the videos, play the games, transform your dog owning struggles.
As a loyal YouTube subscriber, you can get a 70% discount through the link in the description below.
And if you haven't already, subscribe to the #1 most transformational dog training podcast on iTunes and Spotify, the Sexier Than a Squirrel podcast.
And remember to follow us on Facebook and Instagram for more live teaching, video content and free training using the links in the description.